The game starts with Kiryu getting a phone call.
Bro, aren't you gonna say hello?
Turns out, Haruka's been kidnapped, and there's a zombie apocalypse in Kamurocho. But how did this happen? Part 1. Zombie. Akiyama and his assistant Hana are walking around minding their own business when all of a sudden, this guy falls out of a building. You'd think he's dead, but nope. He bites a few people, and Akiyama and Hana run away. Now it's time to learn how the game works. Shoot the gun. You'd think that'd be it for the tutorial, but they pop up like every 5 seconds, and it's kind of annoying. Anyway, he meets back up at his office, and they spend the night there. But Hana got sick, so Akiyama needs to go get some medicine. This means you'll head straight to the doctor and back, right? This is a Yakuza game. What do you think? This game is really bad for making you take the long way around. I'm right here, and I need to get here. So you'd think I just go there, right? Well, here's the path that I actually took. You go all the way around, find there's a wall right in front of where you need to go that was conveniently placed there overnight, by the way. Talk to a guy, he tells you there's a store that has guns, so you go there without any interruption. On the way there, you run into a lady that gives you like 80 things to do. Then you can go to the gun store and get a bunch of guns, but not the ones you want. Oh, you wanted the rifle and the other rifle? Too bad, here's an SMG and a deagle. I can live with this. When you leave, the guy joins you and helps you get out of the infected zone. Then you head directly to the doctor.
Hello.
Are you kidding? Okay, now we can go.
Hey, can you do my chores for me?
Finally, after all that, you get the medicine, and now you can deliver it to Hana.
Gary Buster Holmes.
He shows you a cool little thing you could do, and now you save Hana like you wanted to do 50 hours ago. Wait, karaoke's right here. So once you get back to where you dropped her off, she's not there. Where could she have gone?
Hey, I'm in a different building now.
I would complain, but this is actually pretty straightforward for once. You go to the building and find Hana in a locker for some reason. So she takes the medicine, and now you can get out of here. The first boss of the game is Alien? It was pretty easy. Part 2. Funny Eye Patch Man. Now he changed characters and are now playing as Majima. He really likes zombies, and he's having the time of his life during all this. So he navigates through the Millennium Tower and, oh look, another boss right after I beat the first one. This one was somewhat difficult, and it was actually the first time I died. But once you beat him, he gets a phone call. Hello?
Hey, why aren't you at the thing?
Zombies.
Okay, that makes sense.
Once he makes his way through the quarantine zone, this guy pulls up next to him and says, hey, you should go to the thing. And then they drive away. They're definitely not important to the story in any way. He then takes a long way to get to where he's going because gaming. And oh, look, it's the thing the guys warned you about. Who could have guessed that? He gets through them and finds survivors in Kamurocho Hills, one of which is his boss. How convenient. They decide to spend the night there because they gotta sleep at some point. Why is he sleeping with a lit cigarette in his mouth? That can't be safe. 2 seconds later, the cavalry arrives and lets the zombies in because they're stupid. So you go and help fix what they broke. Well, they go fix it. Majima goes and fights zombies because he really likes doing that for some reason. Like, a lot. Like, if you put 20 pizzas in a room, he does the thing and gets bit by this guy. This definitely won't have repercussions later. Oh look, it's another one of those things. But it can turn invisible now. This is easier than before. Oh, and you gotta make sure Daigo doesn't die while you do this. But you can't walk over there to help, so you gotta snipe if he's in trouble. But that's okay, because the boss just sits there while you do it, waiting patiently. Like a dog or something. Also, Daigo is basically... So I don't know why he even has a health bar at this part. Maybe it's like a timer or something. I'm reading way too deep into this. Let's move on. So after all that mumbo jumbo, you go in the sewers into Purgatory and meet with the Florist of Kage the Florist. That's a way worse name. So, one thing I didn't mention, everyone's looking for Ryuji Goda because he supposedly died, but he was spotted in Kamurocho along with the guy in the car from earlier. Do you remember that? He was the guy who did the evil laugh. Do you remember? He finds the guy at the batting center, so you go there to share a popsicle. That's a dumb joke. I hate that. But he didn't like that joke very much, so there's a really big monster to fight back. Anyway, fortunately you have Akiyama to help you out. He just showed up randomly. And by help, I mean die in literally 3 seconds. More zombies show up, but that's okay because Ryuji's here to help. Part 3. Hatsune Miku. Once he clears out all the enemies, he goes to this guy's headquarters to see what the deal is. There's a map of Kamurocho with a bunch of areas crossed off, except there's one that isn't. So that's where he decides to go. He meets some army guys who help him to get where he's going, but you can't go there without killing every zombie in the area. And if you run out of bullets, which you will, don't worry, you can use this rinky-dink pistol that'll take 3 shots to kill anything. So once you get to where you need to go, oh wait, there's a wall in the way. So rather than taking an alternate route, this idiot decides he wants to use the tank to blow a hole in the wall, because that's the Ryuji way. He overhears where the supplies, aka tank bullets, are located. So he goes there. Hey, can you help me? Nope. There's some survivors that need rescuing, and if you help, he'll offer a way to get the rounds to where he needs them. There's 3 groups of survivors. You can grab them one by one if you want. It's entirely up to you. So he grabs one group and brings them to the building, then the second, then the third. Then once you do all that, the real game begins. Once he takes 20 years to move the conveniently placed storage containers, he grabs the rounds, runs over some zombies, and fires a tank on the wall. Now he's got to make his way over to the... He discovers that it's a Yakuza office, and he warns the guy there that something bad is going to happen. And the zombie that started it all appears in their CCTV cameras. They get in position to fight back, and they all get bit within a few seconds. This zombie seems pretty important. I wonder who it is. You're telling me that the
Go, kill this arrogant motherfucker.
guy is the big bad zombie who started it all? That's crazy. So after navigating through the bar district in Little Asia for 30 minutes, Ryuji agrees to meet Tetsu, that's this guy by the way, at a club called Asia, but Haruka's there waiting for him. The guy explains some lore stuff, but there's a zombie, so everyone except I almost said Luigi. The guy explains some lore stuff, but there's a zombie there, so everyone except Ryuji leaves because he recognizes the zombie. It's his boss from when he used to work at the takoyaki stand, and he conveniently turns into an octopus boss because of course he does. This boss is so stupid. You gotta aim at these things in the first phase, and there's like 50 other things in the second phase. I nearly ran out of ammo. So after all that, he leaves and sees everyone's running away from something. And it's none other than... Sorry, I got distracted. Anyway, it's more zombies. Who would have thought? This time, it's 3 bosses at once. It's fairly easy, though I did die once. We see the other side of the phone call Kiryu had earlier, and now we switch to Kiryu. Part 4. If I remember correctly, this is the first time we see normal civilians' reactions to seeing Kiryu, which is pretty cool. Makes him feel more like a legend. Anyway, he decides to beat up a bunch of zombies with his fist, but that doesn't work. Sorry, Haruka, you're on your own. Fortunately, the lady soldier from earlier shows up to save him. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about her. They hear someone screaming for help in the underground and rush to save him, but it's too late. Kiryu tries to put him out of his misery with his fists, but that doesn't work. So she's like, let's just shoot him.
No.
He's already dead, he won't feel a thing.
No.
Your fists don't work, let me just...
No.
They decide to go to Kamurocho Hills because that's where all the people are. When they get there, the people are waiting to beat them, so they shoot them. They look all over for any survivors, but don't find any. But then the Hayashi zombie shows up with the army. The lady soldier's distraught, but Kiryu's like, don't cry yet, we gotta kill them first. So they do, then she does. Majima. They then decide to go back to Purgatory because that's where the people actually are. After clearing out the horde, they go through the manhole leading to Purgatory. But Majima's all like, hey yo, remember when I got bit back at part 2? Well, I think it's about to take over. Go without me. But we can't just leave him. They make it through the underground all the way to Purgatory. Akiyama joins up with him, and they go to the florist to get info about the zombies. That's right, it's time for what's the excuse for the zombie outbreak this time? Basically, this Michael Jackson ripoff, actual name DD, found some bacteria in Africa and prepared it to infect people. But he needed money, and that's where Tetsu stepped in. And it's all to get revenge on the Tojo, more specifically Kiryu, because he beat up Ryuji, who's his Aniki. Putting it on the excusometer, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. It's not very deep, and this whole thing started because one guy got angry at some guy he'd never met before. But that doesn't matter because there's zombies on your lawn! So Kiryu, Akiyama, and the lady soldier go and fight back. They eventually make it to the top only to encounter the stupidest boss fight to ever exist in a video game. I hate this boss so much. But if I explained all the reasons why, we'd be here a while. So in short, cheap attacks and useless AI. After beating the boss and questioning why I even play video games anymore, Daigo shows up. Randomly. Don't ask why. He tells Kiryu of a guy who makes weapons, and he and the lady soldier go there on the Warthog. Kiryu takes the gun because RGG can't trust us to drive through Kamurocho, and he makes it there eventually, but not without dealing with another monkey thing. They knock on the door, but before they go inside, Ryuji shows up. They talk about their last battle, and how Kiryu beating him up led to his arm falling off. That still makes no sense. Nothing about what happened to Ryuji, both canon and non-canon, which this game is not canon by the way, make any sense. But he's over it now. The guy then gives Kiryu a comically large sniper rifle, you know, the one on the cover, and it's time to finish what the bad guy started. Finale. Well, technically the finale began a little bit before. It's time to face Tetsu in the place where all Yakuza finales take place. The Millennium Tower. So Kiryu and Ryuji head over there, defeat some enemies, head in, defeat some enemies, go up the elevator. The elevator didn't go to the top floor, defeat some enemies. There's a laser in here for some reason, and eventually make it to Majima's office, where a bunch of his men are held up. They mention how there's something big in the event room upstairs, but it's locked and they don't have a key, so they have to find the combination for the safe because the spare key's in there. After grabbing the notebook with the combination in it and deciphering the cryptic messages because Google didn't have the answer, you find the key and go to the room where this big thing supposedly is, but it's actually Hayashi. And now it's time to put him down. He's actually pretty easy. He takes Ryuji's gun after a bit, and that becomes a bit annoying, but it's still not too bad. After that, you keep going while defeating more enemies, accidentally trigger the fire alarm, and it keeps blaring constantly, which is fun, and eventually make it to Tetsu and DD. He lets Haruka go right away because Ryuji asked him nicely, and another boss appears. Well, 3 technically. 2 technically. They're the same as the other one that looks like it, except they both spit stuff at you. One spits oil and the other spits fire. It's pretty easy again. Tetsu is happy because of the show you put on, except not anymore because DD uses the thing to turn him and then shoots him. And now it's time for more of, what's the excuse for the zombie outbreak this time? DD explains that it actually feels pretty good for humans to turn, and so they want to share that feeling with others who haven't turned.
Okay.
Time for another boss battle, but this time with Tetsu. He targets Ryuji most of the time, which could either be because of lore stuff or because I just got lucky, but anyway, he has a phase where he splits up and Yakuza has its first official crossover with Scorn. You gotta shoot these heart things for the boss to show back up. This one was pretty easy again. A lot of these are pretty easy, but it's not over just yet because he then grows really big because it wouldn't be a JRPG if there wasn't a really big final boss. Ignore those, I'm right. This one's pretty easy again, except it has a QTE that I failed twice because the QTEs in this game require such precise timing, and I'm just a bit slow, so I can't ever hit them. After getting some help from the lady soldier, you finally beat it and see DD running on the roof, waiting for something, I guess. Kiryu then gives a big lecture on why taking the easy way out is dumb and you should face life head on, blah blah blah, hard the cards, oh look, a helicopter. He then makes his escape, except not really because Akiyama is piloting, and the ladder is stupid long, meaning the zombies can climb up. Akiyama jumps out and the helicopter falls, leading DD to his death. And that's the end of the apocalypse in Kamurocho. The armory comes out and cleans things up, but there's an explosion in the building. 2 soldiers go and check it out, but it's just Majima. But why didn't he turn? Well, the zombie had fake teeth, of course. Weren't you paying attention? And then everyone goes back to their normal lives. Akiyama goes back to his office, Majima back to building Kamurocho Hills, Ryuji back to his octopus ball stand, and Kiryu and Haruka decide to abandon the kids in Okinawa because that's the only explanation as to why they haven't gone back yet. And that's the end of the game. Wait, DD is played by... While I'm here, I might as well review the game real quick. The massive amount of lag, the graphical bugs, and the fact that this is a PS3 era Yakuza game mean that this game hasn't held up graphically in the slightest. I'm sure you saw a few things while watching this, like how the shadows didn't render correctly and they looked like this, and now people's eyes would turn green. The only reason I'm not ranking it lower is because at least you can see what you're doing, so that has to add up to something. 3 out of 10. If they do a remaster like what they did with 3 through 5 by making the game 60 FPS and fixing all the bugs and glitches, that could be really good. I've never been a fan of the traditional zombie gameplay like in COD, for example. The gameplay here is more enjoyable, to me at least. I feel like it won't be everyone's favorite, but if you try it, you might be surprised. 7 out of 10. Why do you shoot with R1? Why not R2? That's how it's been for a bunch of shooter games for a while now. Also, while aiming, you use the left stick to move the reticle around. And you can't really aim slowly with it because you're either moving the stick or not. There's no in between. And sometimes you'll be right in front of an enemy and it'll miss. The controls are clunky and kind of annoying at times, but it's serviceable. 6 out of 10. There wasn't a single song in this soundtrack that really stuck out to me. The songs are either forgettable or kind of annoying. This is honestly common for the Yakuza games around this time, with 3 and 4 only having like 5 good songs in their soundtrack at best. 5 out of 10. This is probably the shortest of all the Yakuza games, and I'm all for it since they're all stupid long. It only took me 10 hours to beat the game, which is really nice and is kind of the sweet spot for games like this. Any longer and it would have been too tedious. 8 out of 10. It's mostly quick and to the point, with no filler like in basically all the other Yakuza games. You could tell this was made for an American audience, but it's honestly kind of forgettable. 7 out of 10. While I used an emulator for this video, I do have a physical copy. I wanted to find one in a used game store because finding it online is cheating, and it took me well over a year for me to find one. And it only cost me a mortgage. When I tried booting it up for the first time, this happened. Nothing happened. So I drove 40 minutes back to the store I bought it from. They try it and it works instantly, which means it's most likely an issue with my console. Maybe, I still haven't figured it out yet. 2 out of 10. The only reason I'm not rating it lower is because I did eventually find it, but I would have been better off emulating it from the start. This game has a ton of stuff to do, like most Yakuza games. You can go back in the quarantine zone at any time. There's a bunch of mini games like karaoke and other stuff that I ignored because I just wanted to focus on the main story. 8 out of 10. I enjoyed my time with this game most of the time. It has the framework of another excellent Yakuza game, but there are a bunch of negatives that can't be ignored, like the graphics, the mediocre story, and the sometimes clunky gameplay. If you try it, you might be decently surprised to find that this game isn't that horrible, despite what people online say. I think it may be a while before I go back to it, but overall, I generally enjoyed my time with this game. 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you should do the stuff every YouTuber asks you to do. You know what I'm talking about. It really does help more than you realize. And maybe you should watch this video too. It's a review of Infinite Wealth, so it's probably right up your alley. Okay, that's it.